Newton is out of date, and there's a dark matter astonishment. The new moon core theory presented by a scientist, and the next video will talk about why the days of the Earth are getting longer. Now, this dark matter astonishment and the core theory of the Earth, a successor to Sir Isaac Newton's law of universal gravitation theory, has been proposed by a UK-based scientist. And she says that there's a lot of things wrong with Newton's theory of gravitation. In 1687, Sir Isaac Newton calculated ocean tides are the consequence of the gravitational attraction of the sun and moon on the Earth's oceans, and Newton's law of universal gravitation states how gravitational attraction between two bodies is directly proportional to their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the two bodies. So the greater the mass of the objects and the closer they are to each other, the greater the gravitational attraction between them. And this is the gravitational attraction force that is responsible for tidal forces. But Alan Lowy, a former Royal Aircraft Establishment scientist, believes the theory is out of date, that is Newton's theory, and proposes a fundamental paradigm shift. He says, I've been proposed an alternative to Newton's idea of the theory of ocean tides. He formulated his theory of gravity Newton, about 300 years ago, and reportedly had reservations about ocean tides and how that actually worked with his mathematical theory, and the French mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace helped him out by coming up with his own mathematics. But in retrospect, it still does not resolve the issue, if you think about it carefully enough. And also, in hindsight, we have a missing mass problem, which is the reason scientists have come up with the theory of quote-unquote dark matter. He says there's an alternative way of thinking about how the ocean tides are created. In its simplest forms, children are taught at school that the moon pulls the water of the ocean and creates the tides. Children are taught the moon pulls the water on the water, which actually is not correct even in terms that were laid down 300 years ago. And as we see here in the simulation. Now, despite admitting many mainstream scientists would disagree with this theory, Lowy believes the latest black hole research suggests that Newton and Albert Einstein require revisions in their theories. He said, the kind of response I'm getting from just people online is Einstein's theories have been tested should be tested, and that's the one that everyone's going with. There's a recent study from UCLA astronomer Professor Andrea Getz, and there's also a team in Germany studying stars moving around the black hole, which is at the center of our Milky Way galaxy. And Dr. Getz says she's recently published articles saying Einstein's theory is fraying at the edges. In the study, Professor Getz is essentially laying down foundations for future studies that are going to show Einstein's theories are categorically incorrect. They're incorrect, and that a new paradigm shift is required. She says, so I've got this new paradigm shift in waiting for when people are going to start thinking laterally, when the most teams investigating general relativity say, oh, actually, there's a problem here. So Lowy added that he thinks he's formed a conceptual reevaluation of very fundamentals, which everything else is based on. He said, there has been a crisis in physics for decades with little progress on resolving the big issues, and this is one of them. Imagine you went back in time to when Newton was pondering gravity and asked, how about two types of matter? I propose that dark or different matter at the moon's center, this is very important what he says here, I propose that dark matter or different matter at the moon's center pulls on the Earth's core to create the ocean tides. So you can understand how big a difference this is in the gravitational theory. He says the oceans are pushed from beneath due to Earth's tides. They're pushed from beneath. That's a very long way to go. Now, Professor Gatz says she's the one who led the 20-year-long black hole experiment. She said back in 2018, there are a number of shortcomings in Einstein's theories that need to be tackled. And she says exploring the universe offers an opportunity to see the most extreme forms of gravity, what we are seeing today is Einstein's ideas do not completely explain everything. And you can hark back to the days of Newton, who had the previous best description of gravity, and at some point we realized we had to move beyond Newton to get a more complex and complete vision. It's not to say these ideas are wrong, it's just that they're too simple. And they don't explain how gravity or universe work in all conditions. And we explore these more and more extreme conditions, and that's how we see that there is something missing. So here they're saying that it's the Earth's core that's If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.